larger this year because we wanted to make this a really good celebration. And we've asked the cities and the county to come and talk, and we've asked law enforcement too, because that's a really important part of how we feel safe in our communities, is having confidence in how not only are we being protected, but also how interactive and community oriented our law enforcement is here compared to perhaps a lot of other areas that aren't quite so lucky. And I think that's probably partially because Shasta County really is communities rather than urban. Nobody thinks of Redding as urban. Almost 100,000 people, but nobody thinks of it anywhere else as being just, well, it's that small town up at the end of the valley. What I'm going to do is I'm inviting Jack Potter up to do our invocation. He's the chair of the Redding Rancheria Tribal Council, and we'd like you to please enjoy and be prayerful with. Thank you.
Thank you. Oi. Oelbas. Bohem men. What ham chino kwiram yamara hattake. Nor. San Palm. Oelbas what ham chino kwiram yamara hattake. Nam. Sanchu Shuli. Oelbas what ham chino kwiram yamara hattake. Way. Bolian Poyak, Oil Basud Hamchino Quidam Yamarahatake. Oh. Thank you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the festivities today. Have a good day.
I'm proud to be the Vice President of the Shasta County Multicultural Board, a Shasta County home provider, and a member of Local 2015. I'm proud to introduce Kim Yvonne, our Executive Vice President of SEIU Local 2015, my union that represents over 385,000 home care and nursing home workers throughout this great state, including more than 2,600 right here in Shasta County. So we can share this moment together. Also want to take this moment to acknowledge our Regional Director, Cindy Fonseca. All right.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Jackie. I am so proud and feeling very blessed to share this occasion here in Redding with my sister Jackie, who I said if I come up here for this moment, I want us to do it together in the spirit of what we're trying to communicate and honor today. Today we come together to both honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and to recommit ourselves to the dream that he brought to life, the dream that continues to connect all of us. In 1963, at the March on Washington, Dr. King shared a dream that calls for equality, freedom, and justice. A dream that calls upon us all today to be united rather than divided.
56 years later, the need for the dream to become reality has never been greater. We continue to believe in the dream, and we know that even as our community has become more divided politically, we have more in common than we have differences. What impacts one impacts all.
Dr. King said, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be if you are not what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be if I am not what I ought to be.
As Dr. King said, we are all interconnected to each other's success. We know that in order for our communities to succeed, everyone within those communities must succeed. No one can be left out or left behind.
The color of your skin, the country of your birth, the faith that guides you, your gender, or who you choose to love, should not diminish your value, but rather be recognized for the richness and strength it brings to a single community. There is no better example of the strength of a community like Shasta. During times of crisis, such as the devastating car and campfires that claimed lives and property, we came together as one, regardless of our differences. We came together as one community, as one Shasta. As Dr. King stated, all men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny.
And we must continue to be one in addressing the issues that impact us all. When families don't have a roof over their heads because of the rising cost of rent and housing, it impacts us all.
When children don't have access to the education they need in order to live their full potential, it impacts us all.
When health care is too expensive, so people go without it, it impacts us all.
And when workers aren't paid a livable wage, a wage that allows them to provide for their families with dignity, it impacts us all.
The members of SEIU Local 2015 understand this and have committed ourselves to being part of the solution to the problems impacting our communities, and we ask that you join us. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. Shasta, this is the time to be all that we ought to be.
We have a saying at SEIU Local 2015 that when we stand together, anything is possible. Today is all about that, standing together, remembering and honoring the legacy of an incredible man who sought justice for all and working together to make his dream our reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have a poetic tribute read by Erica Jones. It's part of the arts that we're introducing into not only the bell ringing, but also into our program.
Oh, our beloved community, where we celebrate lives in great unity, our rejection of small hate and big bigotry, where we do away with lines for God's symmetry. A king believed that unarmed truth and unconditional love would have the final word in reality. Let's end the long night of our captivity of the mind, because only 56 years ago, there was a time where folk had to be set ablaze to put out the flames of withering injustice, where people had to be locked up behind jail cells to break free of the manacles of segregation, where people marched to rid the nation of the chains of discrimination. But we call ourselves free. Is it the truth or still a prophecy? Is it the hope of a democracy? Is it only an honorable philosophy? I have a few questions. You see, if the Israelites were led out of captivity to roam a desert, were they really free? If Joshua led them over the river and into the promised land, did it cost something? When Harriet Tubman crept through the mud and thistle to grant new liberty as the Underground Railroad's train whistled, were the slaves who followed the North Star really unbound? Is the bloody tapestry of our nation's violent history really unwound? What does it cost to hear the resounding sound of the bell ring? Who really knows why the caged bird sings? What does it mean to fight with every fiber of your being? When Ruby Bridges at 5 years old became the beacon of desegregation, was the emotional trauma a pang or a sting? What do they hear when they listen to music about cash and bling? Does it remind them that Black people pricked brown fingers against white cotton? Does it seem like we're still hungry to have ownership of something? Oh, beloved community. Freedom sounds good after 56 years of progress. But let us not digress or be overwhelmingly impressed by the fact that I can sit anywhere I'd like to on a bus without creating a fuss. Let's take a moment to examine the alignment of our hearts and minds. Let's consider how in this time what we believe freedom actually is. This morning, I leaned into the voice of God to ask him about his thoughts. He told me, "Child, let me remind you of the cost, but I can assure you that no love will be lost." Freedom says, "I love you without qualification. I believe the best in you. I would wash your feet, tie your shoes. I am a mother that nurtures you to life. I am a friend that has sacrificed everything. I am a father that champions protecting you with rock and sling against the weapons of your enemy. I am a brother that may not understand, but I choose you anyways. I am a sister that lets go of your fragile basket at the riverbank. Freedom says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Freedom says, there will come a time where your faith has to be bigger than the things you fear. That love has to be greater than the things you hold dear. That what matters to you must matter to me. Come, share it in my ear. Can you hear that? It's the sound of a train. Can you hear it? It's the sound of my pain. Listen close. You can almost taste the pattern of the rain, the lies lost and the truth gained. Can you hear it? Lean in. It may be faint, but it's here. Open your eyes and let love draw near. It's the rhythm, the syncopation. It's the sound of a king. It's a father's heart cry. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. Thank you.
Good morning. We do have a large county, 3,850 square miles and about 180,000 people. A lot of diversity there. Over 200 years ago, our founding fathers started a new country. And over the centuries, we have a lot of diversity. We're known as the great melting pot of a nation. But yet, while we're still diverse, as we heard earlier, we're still very divided. There's been many improvements over the decades and centuries, and even back for the starting of law enforcement in England, the founding godfather, he's known as Sir Robert Peel, said that the people are the police and the police are the people, part of the community. We have that here. The Sheriff's Office for many, many years has had a multicultural event that we've had each year, and then later to expand it out to the one that we see now up in the city of Shasta Lake. In the city of Shasta Lake, we also have law enforcement contract services by the Sheriff's Office there. We are a diverse organization, but yet with all that diversity, we still have to work against bigotry and racism. And it's nice that the county here has taken on a motto of no room for racism. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in one of his speeches, "Now I say to you, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. And it is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream, that I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men," and I'm sure he meant women in that sentence as well, "are created equal." We need to have that in our hearts and our minds each day. And every year we come here, and oftentimes we see the same people. I would love to see this room filled every year. And so perhaps for next year, maybe invite a friend to come along, and we'll have even more people to start sharing a good thought to be diverse, equality, and free. Thank you.
Good morning. We got a nice frosty morning, don't we? Waking up this morning and have to get the windshield all clear of all the ice and everything else. My name is Steve Morgan. I'm on the County Board of Supervisors, Shasta County Board of Supervisors, and I'm pinch hitting for the chairman. He's been delayed. And so I really didn't have a speech today for you, but I have a lot of thoughts. And right on the beginning of your program, it says, we are one humanity. And boy, is that true. You know, we don't practice it throughout the nation, but we need to. And Dr. King had a speech, and that was a speech that every time I hear it, I get goosebumps. I've heard it over and over again. I saw the march on TV. I didn't have a chance to see it in person. And of course, I'm aging myself that way, but it was a powerful speech. Dr. King is an icon. He believed in a certain dream, and so did a lot of other people. And that has come to fruition, that some of it has happened. We've got a long way to go, but it will happen eventually. Maybe not in my lifetime, it would be nice, but maybe in our children's lifetime. Young lady here had a terrific poem that she read. Oh, couldn't believe it. Gave me goosebumps again. You know, when you hear words like that, and if you don't have goosebumps, I guess they're going to put you 6 foot under. But it's powerful. It has a lot of powerful words. Dr. King had a lot to say, powerful words. And when those powerful words come out and we don't listen, then we become what we can be today. And we need to have our ears open, listen to those words, and practice what he said. And therefore, we will be a better nation all around. And that's really all my ideas this morning, since I don't have a speech, and I'm sure there's other speakers today that will have a lot more powerful words than I do. But I want to thank Jan for inviting me this morning and being pitch hitting for Mr. Modi. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Officer Mike Callaghan. Thank you for the opportunity to come here today and speak to you about what we have going on in the city of Anderson. I'm one of the officers assigned to the department's problem-oriented policing unit. I'm also one of the field training officers, and as Jan said, I'm one of the canine officers as well. About 5 or 6 years ago, Chief Michael Johnson came to the city of Anderson Police Department and became our chief. And one thing that he brought with him was the philosophy that community policing isn't just a buzzword, but it's an action that each and every officer needs to take. And that's instilled from the top level of management all the way down to our volunteers and our community service officers. One of the ways that we've put this into place is that any new police officer that comes to the Anderson Police Department and goes through the field training program, at the end of that program, they have to come up with a community project. They have to find some problem or some part of the community that is maybe lacking in police contact or police services, or to build that unity and build that trust with the police department. This year, one of our police officers realized that there wasn't an after-school program that our law enforcement officers were a part of. They developed a relationship with the school, and we had officers who were volunteering their time to come in, mentor the youth, and kind of coach them through the after-school program. Some of the other projects that we've done is we've worked with the Mantor House down in Anderson. They were in a neighborhood that was one of our higher crime rates, where there wasn't a lot of trust with the police. We were more there as an enforcement arm rather than building bridges. Through the Manor House and through projects with them, attending community events, reaching out and speaking to the public and really finding out what their problems are in their areas, we've built a tremendous relationship in that neighborhood, and crime is at an all-time low. So that's what we got going on down in Anderson. Those are the directions that we are going to continue to take this police department. I can tell you that all of us are proud to be a member of the police department. I think we went from having 1 or 2 officers living in the city about 10 years ago to now at least probably 70% of our officers live in the city that they work in. And it's very important to them that they take a stance against crime and to build those relationships, because they are an actual part of that community that lives there every single day. So thank you for this opportunity.
So I want to thank everyone for being here today. It's an honor to be here to celebrate the life of a great man with you. I am in a similar position as Mr. Morgan here. So I'm going to defer the rest of the city's time to Officer Lamas, who I know is coming up after me. But thanks again, everyone, for coming. This is a great event.
I am truly honored to be here today to celebrate the vision and accomplishments of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to take a moment and share an experience I recently had in my home with my wife, who runs an in-home daycare. My wife provides daycare to several children of different backgrounds, race, and religion. And I often have the opportunity to see these children interact. As you can imagine, I get to see these children play, laugh, and yes, from time to time even argue. On this date, I watched several children ranging in the ages of 3 to 7 years old interact and reminisce of past children that had attended the daycare. That day, the older children were telling the stories of Gary, a past child that attended the daycare. Gary was a 2-year-old boy whose mom was a nurse and his dad was a manager at a local business. They had recently left our daycare because they moved to the great state of Texas, and they are an African American family. The younger children could not recall who Gary was, so the older children began to describe Gary. They used several different words to describe him. Those words included big smile, the boy who liked to dance, and the boy with the big teeth. Not once did these children mention Gary's skin color. I was amazed, because in the adult world, that would have been the first thing to be mentioned. I was reminded that children are born innocent, with no bias and with no hate. So I began to reflect on my experiences as a police officer here in the city of Redding, how I have responded to assist victims of hate crimes and hate incidents. And I asked myself, how does hate exist? And where is it learned? I realize, and I know, that hate only takes root and grows when communities allow it and stay silent. I am here to tell you that the Redding Police Department takes a zero-tolerance stance on hate crimes or hate incidents. All reported incidents are handled with top priority and reviewed by our chief personally. The Redding Police Department began documenting hate crimes in 2004, and I'm glad to say that in 2018 we've had 70% less hate crimes than reported in 2004. Now this number may be striking, but it's still unfortunate, because we still have hate crimes impacting people within our community. And I think all of us here can agree that even one hate crime is too many. So how do we stop these hate crimes from occurring? We respect and learn from each other. We remember and honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his vision. And we keep working together as a community. The Redding Police Department, for example, will continue to collaborate with community groups, civil rights leaders, and citizens. We also continue to take a zero-tolerance stance on hate crimes in the city of Redding and prosecute violators to the fullest of the law. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Kachuk I would say in my tribal language, good morning. Thank you very much for being here. I'm honored. I want to thank Jack Potter for his honoring this morning with the Redding Rancheria and the tribal members here in Shasta County. And Life Center, Local Indians for Education Center, is located in the city of Shasta Lake. It'll be 43 years old this year, and it's been in the same location with, actually in the city of Shasta Lake, used to be Central Valley, and it started back there with a group of folks that had this idea, this intention was, their vision was to take care of the people, to take care of the Indian people. They said they weren't graduated from high school, they weren't getting jobs, they didn't have training, they didn't have all these things. So they got together and said, we need to change that. And so I've been a part of the organization for about 43 years, since its inception. Off and on different positions. Right now I'm just the director of the program out there that I hold highly, and I appreciate at least the commitment that it has to stay resilient in the community. And for me, sometimes I wonder, even what am I doing here in Shasta County? I've been here 51 years now, and about 2 years ago I figured it out. I didn't have a choice. So I'm just here, doing the best I can, being involved. Dr. King had said, you know, that to be a part of your community, you need to be involved. And that's the channel I took. I just want to say something about Shasta Lake also. You know, this past year, it celebrated its 25-year anniversary for a city. And I remember when it started was, what are we going to do? Well, you're a city now, you got to act like a city. What do cities do? It's different than depending on an agency that was going to you were part of, and then you had to find the identity. So Central Valley will always be the identity for that area out there, for what it is. So I still, the conversations I'll bring up, back in the day in CV, I know a lot of law enforcement agencies and the connections over these years, would come out there and be a part of that too. But everybody in this room. But Shasta Lake, after 25 years, is progressing. It's changed, there's no doubt. Sidewalks, curbs and gutters, that's part of being a city, I guess you might say. When they come down off the hill there, you look down there, Shasta Boulevard, oh, what a beautiful thing that is, especially about like 10, 11 o'clock at night. People are out walking, they're taking their time, you can do that. That's the kind of community it is right now. Will change. It's inevitable. Change is around all of us. And that's just listening to this beautiful poem this morning. I appreciate that very much because it kind of got deep into my mind. And I was thinking about one thing about the mind. I was thinking about if there's something that we don't like as an individual, and it was blocking us, we didn't know that. And then all of a sudden we thought maybe this other situation might be the right way to go. And then we say, I kind of like that, I'll go along with it. That's freedom to me. I've had to do that a lot. I don't mind disagreeing, but I'll disagree in a good way. I don't mind having my opinion, and I'll speak that, but I'm not going to battle somebody to change them for what my opinion is. I'll just express that. It's about teaching. It's about learning. And I was listening to Tom a while ago. He said, if everybody in here was to bring somebody next year, we're going to double this room. Well, you know what I'd like to do? Is for everybody to bring a child, a grandchild, or a great-grandchild. We have a little one sitting in the back there, and I don't know how young this child is over here. We have younger parents in here today. We need to bring our youth, because in 20 years, I'm going to be 95 years old. I can't get up those stairs. And then I don't know what I'm going to do. But I still maybe want to be here. But then I would have probably one of my grandchildren, my grandson driving me. I'll take you, Grandpa. So in the city of Shasta Lake, it's part of my being, who I am. Dr. King wants everybody in here to unify, to be one. And right now we're a group. When we leave here this morning, what are we going to do? What do we expect out there? When we go downstairs and after the bell ringing, we're going to go over to the courthouse and then we're going to march over to MLK Center. But what do we expect? With everything that's going on in the world today, are we nervous? Are we happy? I'm glad to be here. I'm glad for the challenge. I'll stand up there and just take whatever happens, right? That's the way you got to be. And I was thinking about Mr. Morgan. I appreciate him. He's from our city out there too. Active person, got elected to the Board of Supervisors. And so we expect him to take a message back from our city to the other 4 members of the board, the county board. They're the next level up from the city. Then we go to the state and the feds, and then I'm not for sure beyond that. But it's connection. If we feel out there, some of us feel that maybe that's not the right way to go, we should talk to him about that. We should have a conversation. And this morning, I listened to the other speakers. I appreciate Sam back there, because he is involved. He gets out here and he goes after the children. He goes after young people. He's at all these meetings. And he's following this. Dr. King. I'm not perfect, not liked by everybody. But I can't say I don't care, because I do. And I don't want to be this, but what I want to be is a part of his message, Dr. King's message. Walk the talk, I guess you might say. Practice the way every day. And if we have something that we need to say to somebody in regards to whether you like it or not, we just need to say that and just get it done. That we're freeing ourselves in. It's about freedom of individuality. And what's going on in our world today, the Native American people are resilient people. I was thinking about coming down this morning, what a beautiful drive it was. Man, it was so cool to see the sun out. I thank the Creator for the east side. And then when I got the top up here at Market Street and coming down into this little flat here, You could see the fog out there and hit that little bit of fog. I thought, man, that was really cool too. Made me feel good. Not that I don't like the rain. I couldn't see the big moon last night, and I thought, oh my gosh, because the clouds were out. So this was at 7:30. It's supposed to be happening at about 10:30 on the East Coast, and we could see it here, couldn't see it. So what happened the first thing this morning, I knew, I envisioned in my mind that I could see this big red moon. Well, then when I got up to come down this morning, I could see the moon. It's huge still, but it wasn't red, it was just big. And I was thankful for that. But I'm thankful for being here this morning so I can say these things. I'm speaking from my heart about Dr. King and about what he is saying to each one of us this morning, because we still have a lot of work to do. We have little battles, little wars, big battles, but we have to do it together. There's a way that we can do that. We know it in our hearts. We want to be free. We want to be free and just walk out here and do good. Well, then we have to just give ourselves up a little bit too. We can continue to battle, because as long as we battle ourselves, and we're not going to be free. And sometimes I don't really know where I'm going when I get up here to say things, because I didn't write any of this out. All I can think about is coming back here every year. We say, oh man, another year, that's great. Yes, that's great, it's another year. It's good that we're here for another year, 2019, January 21. We should all be blessed. And when we leave here today, we take a message. All these folks had really cool things to say, because they believe from their heart this is where it's supposed to be. And each one of you sitting out here, and I think that you're going to get a chance, so don't be shy to get up here and say something if you get called, if you get asked. That's the thing that we need to teach our little kids, and I think that next year we should, all of us, try to bring a grandchild or a child or a neighbor, or invite these young people. Today was the first time that I've heard, and I'll be done here in a second, Jen, that I heard a little bit more about the real, true, hardcore diversity and racism and things that are going on. It just seemed like there's a message about that. So I'll just close with the thought of Dr. King. What would have been if he hadn't been assassinated for Dr. King and for all of us sitting in this room? Where would we be? He would be 90. I just want to say thank you all for letting me speak, and I think I just said what I needed to say in the way I needed to do it. So you all have a good day.
Good morning. My name is Donnell Ewert. I'm the director of the Shasta County Health and Human Services Agency. And every year it's important to think through Dr. King's work and what he did for us. And I think it's so easy for us to look at others and judge others for racism or discrimination. But I think on this holiday commemorating Dr. King's birthday, it's important for us to think about ourselves and the bias that we might have ourselves toward people that are different than us, because it's only in doing that that we can really change and be the change that we want to see in the world. And recently, the Health and Human Services Agency, along with the Probation Department, the District Attorney, and our Shasta County Office of Education, joined something called the Government Alliance for Racial Equity. And we're going through several trainings, and we're going to be doing assessments of our department's practices to assess whether or not we really are committed to racial equity, and then building a plan to try to encourage that. And part of the homework we got after our first session was to study the history of race in our own area. And so in a half an hour on the internet, I learned a few things about Shasta County and California for that matter. And the point of this Government Alliance for Racial Equity is to see make sure our government is being fair and just. And when we look back in history, we can see that that hasn't always been the case. And we have to look at our own situation now to make sure that it's fair and just. And I don't know if all of you are aware, in California at one time, we had laws against immigration of Chinese people. We had a law that paid $5 for a scalp of a Native American. And one of our state's fathers, or someone we respect as an early leader in California, John Fremont, was actually responsible for a massive massacre of Wintu people right here in Shasta County. And we have a city in California named after him. And I also learned that in the town of Shasta in 1858, the white people of Shasta had organized and formed something called the Anti-Chinese League. And they drove 500 Chinese people out of the town of Shasta who were there mining and scattered them within Shasta County and elsewhere because they were Chinese. There were also many other massacres of Native Americans, including the one we recently learned about in regard to a commemoration for Mr. Dieselhorse that was proposed down by the river, where many Yana Indians were murdered and almost completely annihilated. So we have these things in our own history here. Have we made those things right? I'm so grateful we had our Native people here today, but there's some great atrocities that have been committed against them here in our own community. And this land that we have and that we now benefit from, many of us are owners of land, once belonged to them, and they were not really compensated for it. So we have to really come to a reckoning of these things. And I think only by doing that reckoning can we really move forward. Because I was rereading one of Dr. King's speeches this morning where he said he'd been to the mountaintop and he'd seen the promised land. He may not get there with us. I don't think we're there yet. So he had that vision, but we're not there yet, and we need to really commit ourselves to get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our history, we're doomed to repeat it if we don't pay attention. So we're trying hard to pay attention. Let's make it better. All right, I'd like to invite you all downstairs. We have bells donated by the Salvation Army, and we will be ringing the bell just in about 4 minutes.
Okay, can I get everybody's attention, please? Thank you for joining us. It's a special day. We are not going to continue with our walk to the courthouse. If you guys want to join us there.